those are recorded on live stream. And so you can always go and watch them there instantly when we're done here. And my Facebook page is Dr. Tammy, and my Instagram is Dr. Tammy Tucker. So you can find me there as well. I was really sad last night because, like, I I just assumed the live was going to be good to go because TikTok came back on, and then I was ready to do Facebook Live because I'd already kind of moved over before I knew. And then I was like, oh, well, I interact with you guys here, and everybody knows to interact with me here. So I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And I had so much brain fog yesterday. I was so sick anyway. And I just thought, okay, this is not happening. And I was talking about thyroid, and I was just like, I can't. I'm sorry. And I just like checked out. I was like, oh my gosh, people who don't know me are going to think I'm the biggest like goofball ever because like I was slurring my words and probably thought I was drunk, and who knows, I might have been on cold medicine. So I don't know. It was all just a blur. So I don't get sick very much, thank goodness, because of hormones and supplements that I take. But boy, when I do, it seems like it kind of kicks me in the butt a little bit. So yeah, I started with sore throat, and I'm on antibiotics, so it's good. Hi, Dolores. So yeah, so we're gonna get into all things brain fog. It was funny because I was thinking, what am I gonna talk about? And then I was like, I don't know, what am I gonna talk about? And then I couldn't think of anything. I'm like, oh, you can't think of anything because you've got brain fog going on. So that's our topic for tonight. And brain fog is very real. And I know even when my hormones aren't, because they can't be balanced all the time, right? We fluctuate so much. And if we have a little bit of stress, a little bit of cortisol response, and something triggers our hormone balance, whether we're younger and having menstrual cycles, or whether we are postmenopausal, it's still, things can throw us out of balance, just life or whatever happens. And so when those things happen, it becomes really hard for us to navigate all the things because we're just not clear headed, and we can make really bad decisions sometimes. And we look back, and like I even think sometimes when I get really stressed at work and somebody says, well, I told you that, and I'm like, is this selective memory or is this just like my brain was going so many directions that I just like didn't remember that. Hi, Tacoma. So when you think about like what is brain fog actually, there's a whole bunch of things that play into that. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight and what you can actually do about it. Of course, I'm the hormone queen, so of course I'm going to say hormones. But there are other things too that can play in. But one of the things I think that you need to do is to recognize what it is and that it's real and that it is something that we're all facing, and 100% of women are going to go through menopause. I mean, I always say menopause is just a year without periods, but 100% of us are going to experience ovarian failure. So we're going to talk about that too, and what you can do about that, and some supplements that you can take, and some other things that you can do. So let's get right into it. Ovarian failure, yes. Okay, brain fog. And I know my writing's always hard to read and it's small, but I always say it's more for me than you. So it just kind of keeps my flow a little bit better. And I do apologize because I'll probably have to stop and cough a lot. And if it becomes too much, I might have to do a part 2 tomorrow night. So I do ask for a little bit of grace. Okay. Brain fog. Okay. So difficulty concentrating. That thing where it's like you're just listening and then someone's talking and then you're tuning out and you're like daydreaming. I guess we used to call it daydreaming when I was a kid. Confusion. So things don't quite make sense. Like today I was talking with my accountant, and I don't like numbers anyway. I'm the nerdy science girl. If it's med math or medical math, I'm like, I'm fine with that. If it is anything to do with the way the body functions or chemistry, love it. But don't give me accounting and math. And like I was telling my team, I was like, okay, if you want to, hi, Carol, tell my team, okay, if you want to talk nerdy science, I'm all about that. But the minute you start like asking me like accounting stuff, I'm like, deer in the headlights. And I'm off thinking something else. I'm thinking about tonight and talking to you guys. And I am so glad to be back. This is nuts. I was so worried. And it's not that like my livelihood doesn't depend on TikTok. I know a lot of people make a lot of money on TikTok, but it's like my tribe is building, And it's all what I always say, like Carol and Tacoma and Elaine, all you guys, it's like you are going to save the world because you're going to go tell somebody and they're going to go tell somebody. And so it's just so powerful. It's kind of like you have this friend group, right? And then like I said, I went to Facebook and I was like, this isn't any fun. I'm not interacting and I'm not hanging out with you guys. So, and one of the things too is when you join our program. So I have, if you guys aren't familiar, I have a program where we can get you on bioidentical hormones. And yay, I love it, love it. Consultations on 24th. I love it. So she's talking about what we do is we have a test kit. We check your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And it is a saliva kit that you can do at home. Day 5, double dose. I love it. Double dose. That sounds awesome. But yeah, once you do your test kit, this is a saliva kit. We mail it to your house, free shipping, and then it's free shipping to the lab. And then the consults included. Our hormone coaches go over that with you and can get you started on some bioidentical hormones. So it's really awesome. But I was talking about the tribe. Once a month, I get on there with my tribe in a Zoom call. And some of you guys might be new enough that you're not in there yet, but we got on a Zoom and I can see all your faces and we can talk and you can ask questions and stuff. So I'm super excited about that. So yeah, so come on into the club. So, and that all starts with ordering a test kit. So you just go to hormonebliss.com, the Zooms. Yeah, I don't think we have January Zoom scheduled just yet, but we need to. So we will. I promise, coming soon. We usually try to do them around the first of the month, but things have been just a little crazy with the changeover of the year and everything. So that's exciting. So yeah, we're going to do that. So yeah, and if you go to my link in bio, you can order the test kit there. And there's also a lot of free downloads and stuff, informational stuff. And then I also have my shop on the other side of the link in bio. You can order supplements and things that I highly recommend. So, and I can tell you about those here in just a little bit too. Okay, so housekeeping out of the way. Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, so fatigue. One of the things with, oh, thank you, Connie. I'm so glad. Yes, testimonials are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And it seems like once I came into the TikTok world, it was like we just became the sisterhood, right, of solutions. And it's so awesome. Oh, and you guys, hi, Sherry. If I haven't told you, we actually have a Facebook group called Menopause Sisterhood and Solutions. So go hop over in that Facebook group and you can interact with people too. And it's simple to put the saliva in the tube. Yay, yay, Carol. I'm glad it was easy. For me, it's not so hard, but yeah, you can do it. Do the saliva test with a local chiro, suffering with anxiety and inflammation. Okay, Lori, well, do our test and let us work with you and we'll get that fixed. Facebook group. It's Menopause Sisterhood and Solutions. Yeah. Sisterhood and Solutions. Yes. It's a cool group. There's a lot of wonderful people. So, yeah, a lot of them are probably my patients too, which is pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of my dear friends. It was funny because I have so chronic constipation with some diarrhea, headaches for a year, with family at the same time. Okay, so hormones absolutely. But one of the biggest things for constipation is magnesium. But then if you have intermittent diarrhea, could be stress related, but there are a lot of different supplements too. And one of the main supplements is methylfolate. And so some of that could be liver related too. So I'm not sure what you got going on there. And you guys put your questions in. I always stop and just answer questions because that's what I'm here for. I have topics, but I'm here for you. So I always want to answer your questions. So feel free to pop them in. Okay, so I'm back to fatigue. So fatigue is just being tired all the time. So when you're tired, brain fog, all the things, viruses or bacteria. Yeah, it just depends. So that's probably something that you do want to check with the doctor with. And it's freezing. It's cold there. Yeah, it's cold here too. we are really, really cold, like 0 degrees. I have on and off brain fog. Yes, it's a thing. So hormones help a lot. I'm going to talk about that. Okay. Forgetfulness or losing your trail of thought. So if you just are talking, and you see me do that a lot, and I hope that my explanation is because I'm looking at your comments because I want to stop and make sure I get everything answered. and my wonderful fiance, the moderator, will pull them back up sometimes if I don't see them. So, but I do like to give you some content and to make this a value of your time. So all the things that we go through, perimenopause, menopause, and how to take our power back and how to help other women take their power back too. Okay. Losing your trail of thought is one of those things too that can really decrease your productivity because it's from the happy juice. I'm not sure what the happy juice is. It sounds happy though. Trail of thought, right there. That's a great example. I just went quite off my trail of thought there. But that can be very detrimental, like in your job, if you're talking about something and then all of a sudden you're not talking about that thing and you're trailing off. So productivity, I mean, this is a big thing, right? Because just because you go through menopause doesn't mean that you need to have it as a disability, right? Like sometimes I think women, my patients tell me, I think that I have disability because I can't think anymore. I'm like, no, you're just an ovarian failure. Hormone tests in the male can determine hormone levels through saliva. Yes. Oh, hi, Elaine. Vivian. So yes, saliva testing is really accurate. Our lab has been around almost 50 years now, and there's so much research. And it's a nerdy science way that they do it through spectrography, and it actually measures what's in the tissues versus the blood test measures what's in the blood. So it's really great when we use saliva tests because when we use hormone creams topically, we want to know what's in the tissue. So that's ideal, and it's so convenient and it's easy to get to you. Got my test too in a Regal package. Yes. Yes, Elaine, I'm feeling much better. Thanks for asking. I'm still a little brain fog, but it gave me good content for tonight. DNA. Better than blood. Well, again, the saliva is better than blood mostly with what we do with the topical creams. We do blood though still, and my patients in my office do blood. DNA, we do have DNA testing, and it is on our site too. So if you want to order a DNA test, you absolutely can. And I'll talk a little bit about DNA and how it works with your liver too tonight with brain fog. Very important. And while I was saying that, I've got a lot of supplements here. This is my Dr. Tammy line, but the methylfolate is really good for MTHFR, which is a methylation issue. And if I don't take this, I am really brain foggy. This is nuts. We have it on the site, but you have to go to shop Hormone Bliss, not just Hormone Bliss. And then you have to write in the search bar the DNA. So we don't really advertise it much, but or advertise it at all because it's kind of hidden in the site. We don't do a whole lot of that, but absolutely we can do that. Okay. So trouble paying attention and concentration. If you feel like you have ADD, that absolutely can be a hormone issue. And during the menstrual cycle, when women are at their estrogen peak, so there's a little hint of what's to come. Estrogen peak is where you have the sharpest mind. And so as you're like, and then as it goes too far, if you have estrogen dominance, then you can start to get the PMS and then more brain fog. So estrogen has a huge effect on this. Results confidential. Carol, I'm not sure what you're talking. If you're talking about the DNA, yeah, confidential, yes. As confidential as DNA can be, right? I mean, once you're out there in the universe of the DNA stuff, you don't know, but the companies that we use do have strong controls. We used to use 23andMe, and then I would take the data and download it into some nerdy medical software. But 23andMe actually did have a breach. So, I mean, but at this point, like everybody's got our DNA or access to our DNA. So it's kind of like cell phones. We're worried about security and stuff. And it's like, everybody's got access to us. So, it is what it is. But, okay. So mental exhaustion, just where you feel like you just can't go another minute, can be brain fog. Slow thought processes and reaction time. So, so I think about that like, sometimes you got to set your tea or your coffee down. Tacoma, do you have your tea? Or you got to set your tea or your coffee down. And it's like you set it like to the edge too much. And it's like it falls and you have to catch it. What's your reaction time? Do you catch it? Or the dangerous thing is if you're driving and you need that reaction time, got it, and you need that reaction time to, put on the brakes or to, turn to the right a little bit more. And do you feel like it's just like you just feel like you just can't even hardly move, or like you're working on the computer and it's like you go to like move some stuff around and it's like you're deleting stuff and then you're like, oh crap, I just deleted that and I didn't mean to do that. So your reaction time is off. Um, Losing things or misplacing them. Those of you who know me, I talk about my mom a lot. She passed several years ago, but she had Alzheimer's, and my my grandmother had Alzheimer's. So that it makes me so nervous because it's horrific. I don't know if you guys have dealt with Alzheimer's or it's touched your life, but and put it in the comments, if you've had that, because my heart goes out. Um, but when you experience that, and I did my genetics for it, and I do have the genetics for it, so it's terrifying, right? And but when you experience that, it's like whenever you lose your keys or something, St. Anthony Oil misplaced. But when you lose your keys or something, you're like, oh my gosh, is this it? Oh, Cherry, I'm so sorry. Two sisters. Wow. So you probably do have the genetics for it too. But yeah, you lose your keys and you're like, oh, is this it? And you think it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I remember one time I went to visit my mom. She was in assisted living and I was coloring her hair. Um, the smell of hair color is very strong. And as I was leaving, she was like, I mean, the smell of hair color is still in the room. And she says, when are you going to come back and color my hair? And I just about lost it. It took everything for me to get home and like just start screaming in my pillow. And I called my brother, I calmed down and I said, oh my gosh, I said, that was awful. I said, that's the worst I've ever seen her. And he said, and I said, I'm worried about her, but I'm worried about me. Cause I'm like, what happens? I'm a single mom. What happens to my child? What happens if it happens early? I mean, happened to her in her early mid 50s. I'm 55 now, And so anyway, he said, Tammy, he said, you know about hormones. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And he said, you watch what you eat, you exercise, you take your supplements. I'm like, yes, that's true. And I stay very active. So if you're worried about Alzheimer's, one of the best things is to keep your brain active. And any given day, I'm probably working on at least 6 to 8 different software programs and seeing patients and trying to remember all of the things. So keeping your brain active is very important. But I will tell you, yeah, take care of yourself for sure. I will tell you the methylfolate, I had my mom on this and they were like in the assisted living, the nurses and the people who work in there, they were just amazed because my mom was the only one that wasn't progressing. I mean, some of the people would come and go and get worse and die. And like for 2 years, my mom didn't progress. So this is the methylfolate. I don't know if you can see that, but if you go to my link in bio and under the shop tab, you can get the methylfolate. Plus, I have just now we added the MTHFR book, the methyl solution. So that is in my downloads, free downloads. So if you go to my link in bio, that's available now. And I think I told you guys the other day it was, but my tech guy had not put it up yet. So, and I haven't checked, but he said he put it up. So hopefully, so if you want to read about liver and methylation and DNA stuff, that should be there now. Okay. So, word finding. Oh, what was that word? We were talking about, what was that word? So that is that thing where you're just not quite there, where it's like, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. So yeah, that happens. And I am so grateful. This is crazy. I am so grateful when the girls who work in my office, they are in their 20s and early 30s and they forget something or they try to word find, because I'm like, okay, I know that happens. I know it's stress. I know everybody forgets a few words sometimes, but the problem is when you feel like it's all the time, when you feel like you're walking in mud, like all the time or most of the time. So it's normal. Everybody loses their keys. It was funny because somebody the other day was looking for something and I was like, where's the last place you put it? Because that's a joke, right? Because if I knew the last place I put it, it wouldn't be lost. So anyway, I have to play into that a little bit. But okay, feeling out of it or disconnected, or feeling like you're walking in mud and you can't multitask like you used to, or maybe you slur your words or writing. One time when I was in residency, it was like almost, it was 2.5 days that I'd been awake. I mean, we got little cat naps, but it was like running to codes and working in the ER. And it was just so stressful. I mean, we literally like were shoving, chicken strips from the doctor's lounge in our mouths and then just running again. And I had not had any real sleep. I mean, probably like an hour here or there. And it's that disrupted sleep because your pager's going off. Of course, this was 30 years ago, but I just remember like I was doing this thing. I'll just show you because this is kind of weird. It's hard to explain. Ooh, that's messy now. But I was writing a word like with an I and an E, and I remember it was funny because I like dotted my E, so it was like it was I, and then it was E, and then I was like, I knew something was really wrong because I was like, that is not normal. That is sleep deprivation. That is worse than brain fog. And they say actually that sleep deprivation is more dangerous than being impaired with alcohol or drugs driving. So lack of sleep can be really bad. Okay, so causes of brain fog, and of course, lack of sleep. So we just talked about that. But infection. So infection is like what I'm going through right now. So my brain fog is pretty bad right now. And I've got another board here in just a minute. I'm going to go through some of the mechanisms of action, why that happens. Hormone imbalance. And so the sex steroids for sure, like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, we're going to talk about that. And also insulin and thyroid, which are peptide hormones, not sex steroid hormones, but peptide hormones. And when we talk about insulin, we talk about sugar imbalance. So those sugar crashes that you have during the day. And I always say, is your brain fog worse in the morning when you first wake up? Because that's probably a sign that you didn't sleep very well. And sleep apnea can cause you to not sleep well. Also, hormone decline, progesterone is the main hormone of sleep. So if your hormones aren't balanced and you're not sleeping, you're going to be tired when you wake up in the morning. If you are tired in the afternoon, especially after you've had a sugary meal, then you're having low blood sugar because your insulin is spiking. And so I usually say if you're having real brain fog in the afternoon, look at what you ate for lunch. And if it had a lot of carbohydrates in it or refined sugar, and then you crash, that can be a real thing. I have a patient and she kept complaining of fatigue all the time. And we checked her insulin levels and they were super, super high. And so it's like, if you're fasting in the morning and your insulin levels are that high, like what's happening throughout the day with your sugar metabolism? I mean, that's nuts. So poor sleep, stress. What is stress? Stress comes in a lot of forms. Stress can come in, your boss is mad at you. Stress can come in your kid got a, bad grade. It can come in a parent being ill. It can come in lots of different forms. Stress can also be things like alcohol or toxins. And so I have toxins over here, or any kind of metabolic insult to your body, or medications, certain medications, or surgeries, anything stress. And a lot of people do have trouble waking up from surgery because the anesthesia doesn't clear. Oh, and I will tell you another plug for methylfolate. Methylfolate, there it is. I have a patient one time. She had she was a friend at the time. She became a patient later, but who had a hysterectomy. And her husband called me and said, she's not waking up from surgery. She's really groggy. She's really like brain fog, right? And so anyways, I said, I'm going to set out a bottle of methylfolate. You come get it and see if that helps. And like by that evening, she was up taking selfies. So I was like clearing toxins. So the methylfolate actually helps methylate toxins and get them out of your liver. And I'm having my dandelion tea, which also helps clear toxins and helps the liver. So maybe that will help my brain fog. Oh, I know, Connie. I mean, it's nuts. There's like so many cool things. So we got to share with our tribe. Okay, gut imbalance. So the bacteria that's in your gut actually have a very specific process that they make serotonin. It makes most of your serotonin, which is your happy hormone, but it is also the neurochemical that keeps things balanced and affects your memory too. So they call the gut the second brain, the gut brain axis. And I actually have a book on Amazon. I should make that available for a free download for you guys, but all about leaky gut and the gut brain connection. So we talked about sugar imbalance, heavy metals. It's funny because there are certain things in the commercial medicine world that if you talk about as a medical doctor, which I am, you like are called a quack, right? Like that doesn't fit the narrative. And I talked about that the other night. There was something called the Flexner Report that the Rockefellers actually funded back in the early 1900s. And they actually said in medical schools a list of things that if you taught your medical students, that you would not get funding from them. And some of those things were what we call non-traditional medicine now, right? So it all went to pharmaceuticals back then because it used to be we addressed heavy metals. It used to be we addressed parasites. It used to be that we addressed functional medicine and how to balance, with natural stuff like herbals and supplements and things like that. So heavy metals, if you say heavy metals, it's like, what? Nobody's got heavy metals. I see it a lot, actually, not a lot, but I see people who have chronic autoimmune issues, and then we do heavy metal testing, and it's like the other day one popped up, and I never even thought to even think about that. It was cadmium, and I'm like, sounds like a Cadbury egg. I'm like, I didn't even know what it was, So I was like, oh, that's a thing, right? And it can come from insulation of walls and stuff. Greg said cortisol is a big factor. Yes, yes. So cortisol, actually, since you said that, our body takes cholesterol and converts it into estrogens and progesterones. I forgot that. And estrogen and testosterone. But there's a side pathway that makes cortisol. So absolutely, if you have a lot of body stress and you have a lot of cortisol, it's going to unbalance all your other hormones. So cortisol is a big thing. And if you're running high on cortisol all the time because your body's got a lot of inflammation, that absolutely is going to throw things off. Food intolerances. That's another one of those things that we as medical doctors, if we are not just pushing big pharma, that now it's like, it's like you're a quack because you are talking about leaky gut, the gut brain axis, food sensitivities. But it's crazy because every medical journal out there, JAMA, every peer-reviewed journal system has tons of studies on toxic heavy metals and food sensitivities and the immune system. I mean, all of that stuff is grounded in science. And unless you have somebody in an industrial situation that's just got exposed to a large amount of mercury, they don't talk about that. But I mean, we're all exposed to mercury. I heard the other day that, and I didn't even know this, like amalgams in our teeth, and I'm not going to open that can of worms, but are almost 80% mercury. I'm like, what? How's that even possible? I mean, I have all porcelain, I have some crowns and stuff like that, but yeah, I mean, people are walking around with like mercury in their mouth, so I don't know. I mean, they don't want us to think that's a thing, but is it a thing? I don't know. And in mainstream medicine, I ride the fence enough that there are still things that I don't know, right? I mean, I'm the hormone girl, but I have a lot to learn about stuff like parasites and heavy metals and all that stuff. So I'm glad there are people who do that, but I mean, it's not so much a big thing for me. Okay, so I want to get into the second board here. My voice is holding out just a little bit. I'm having another drink of tea. Okay, so infection is very interesting. And since I had this head cold, this was really relevant to me. And there's something called inflammatory cytokines. And cytokines are just a part of the blood that goes and tries to decrease the inflammation in an area. And it signals the brain to prioritize rest. It's so easy, right? Because when you're tired, you can't do anything but rest. It's like this process shuts you down. And sometimes I think maybe I got sick because my body was saying, you need to take a break because you have no choice. And unfortunately, I didn't take a break today. I had so much to do. And so, you know what happens when you don't take that break? It delays your healing process. And in fact, when I was about 8 months pregnant with my son, I got pneumonia and I kept trying to go back to work. And they kept saying, Tammy, you need to rest. And I was like, but I have to go to work. And it seems like people, especially in the medical field, we just push through it. I mean, like, I've just always been that person, like, totally just driven. And it is so hard to get me to slow down. But then the sad thing is, and the stupid thing, Tammy, is that when you don't take that break and rest, it slows everything down for you getting better. And like I had the luxury today of, I didn't have any patients, so had the luxury today to stay home, but then I still worked, and I still had things to do. So I would have been so much better off to stay in bed. And I had several people tell me to go to bed. And did I? No, I didn't go to bed. But I am going to try to go to bed early, like take some NyQuil and stuff. Okay. So overactive microglia release substances to protect the brain cells. And this is a little brain here and the brainstem. This is person's face. And these little microglia almost come and like make a block pathway to keep infection from going up into the head and causing meningitis and stuff. So it's almost like you have this separation of your brain and your body as soon as you start getting infection. And so it's stopping those pathways. So you're not getting as much of the serotonin like from your gut, from your vagus nerve. And so you're really foggy thinking because you just don't have all those processes and connections happening. And then low sugar utilization, because the sugar is being mobilized in all the body processes where the inflammation and the infection actually is. And then you're decreasing your serotonin and your dopamine. And in that process, serotonin's your happy hormone and your dopamine's your really happy chemical. And so you feel not only groggy, but grumpy. And so I wonder if guys actually have more of a problem with this because my fiance is going to fuss at me, but like it seems like guys get a little grumpier when they're sick, but that might not be true at all. I don't know. I get pretty grumpy when I'm sick. Okay, hormones. Hormones. I have to do this, of course. Estrogen increases blood flow to the brain. So if you are postmenopausal or in ovarian failure, which is what I say, you're going to have decreased blood flow to your brain. And if you don't have blood flow to your brain, you're not going to think, you're going to be foggy, right? Estrogen actually enhances glucose metabolism in the brain. And there are a lot of studies to prove that Alzheimer's is actually a type 3 diabetes. So, type 2 diabetes, one is where you can't make insulin, two is where you are insulin resistant, it doesn't work. And then type 3 is the utilization of glucose in the brain. And so, when you don't have estrogen, you lose your glucose metabolism in your brain, which is why my brother said to me, Tammy, you take your hormones. So, yeah, so I have neuroplasticity, I have glucose utilization in the brain. So, all the good things. And that neuroplasticity helps you adapt to form new connections, which means you can learn new things, right? So you can learn new computer skills, you can read books and puzzles and all the things that you want to do. And progesterone actually interacts with GABA receptors in the brain, and that's the brain chill pill, right? So it keeps you from being overexcited so that you can relax, and think, because when you have all that over excitation in the brain, you're going to be all scattered, which is then going to produce more brain fog. And testosterone helps focus and motivation. And we all know that, when you think about who's really driven and motivated, it's like these high powered executives that, are like ruling the world. So if you have like not enough testosterone, you're going to have less motivation and then you're just going to be kind of sluggish. I talked a little bit about the gut brain connection and estrogen and TSH. So estrogen actually can increase your TSH. And so if you have estrogen dominance or too much estrogen, and it happens a lot in perimenopause, then you can actually have a sluggish thyroid because too much estrogen, it's like too much, too little, right? It's all about balance, which is why we do testing and why we make sure you get the right balance. But too much of anything can be bad. But actually, estrogen dominance can create a situation where your thyroid looks like, or it acts slow, and your thyroid regulates your metabolism, your brain, all the things. So we really want that balance. And if it's too low, then it actually can upregulate some of the carrier proteins that then make your thyroid less available. So after menopause, that's a bad thing too. And during perimenopause, I see a lot of women who have estrogen dominance kicking in. And almost every woman, by the time they get to me after menopause or ovarian failure, are really behind the eight ball. Their thyroid has already started to really struggle and have problems. Okay, so bioidentical hormone therapy, I want to talk about that just a little bit, about the delivery and the timing. So this is very important, and I'm going to pull up some research here in just a minute and show you why I say this. But BHRT, or bioidentical hormones, I talk about that all the time, can be like a brain fog reset. And specifically, one of the things about transdermal, which is why I love anything transdermal in my patients, we'll use the creams or the patches or something like that. But transdermal actually bypasses the liver. Why is that important? When you take something by mouth, when I drink this tea, it goes through my digestive tract, and then my liver processes, which is why dandelion tea going through my liver is a good thing, because it actually helps detox the liver. But when you take hormones by mouth and they have to go through the liver for their metabolism and to break down into their byproducts, it can be less effective, but it can also turn into metabolites of estrone, which is a type of estrogen that can be a bit inflammatory. Instead of when you take estradiol or estriol in a cream and it goes right into your blood system, you get all the benefits of it without all the byproduct breakdown concerns, right? And synthetic hormones, absolutely not at all, because if you're taking a synthetic hormone by mouth, which is made from petrochemicals, and it has all these carcinogenic properties to it, and it goes through the liver, like that is like the worst thing ever. And so now we have all these toxic byproducts, like the same stuff in plastic, right? That like you don't want in your body going through your liver. That's not a good thing. And so you can actually have toxins with any kind of oral or synthetic hormones. So we're only talking about bioidentical. And so anybody who says, what's bioidentical? That is, it's organic, and it is the same structure as our sex steroid hormones. Okay, and the timing. So this is where a lot of stuff comes in, because people say, am I too old for hormones? I can only be on hormones for 2 years, and then there's all that other stuff about, I can't take hormones because my third cousin from Poughkeepsie, had breast cancer. And so all of these come out of these narratives. And I think of it like when you tell somebody a secret, right? And then they tell someone else that secret. And by the time it gets like on down the line, it's not even what was said in the first place. And so that's what's happened with hormones. We actually have, through the years, gone from almost 70% of women on HRT down to, I saw a study today that said almost as low as 1%. And if you think that sounds really extreme, ask around and see how many of your friends, if you're in the menopausal age, are actually on HRT of any form, whether it's synthetic or bioidentical. Most people just kind of look at you like, oh my gosh, no, hormones kill you. Hormones cause cancer. And it's like, oh my gosh, we have a lot of work to do. My little tribe, we have a lot of work to do to really change the narrative and use nerdy science to say, wait a minute, there's more to this story. Okay, so if you start within the first 10 years, they call it the window of opportunity. Yeah, I know, no one takes BHRT. I mean, it's like, yeah, 1% might be generous, right? Okay, they call it the window of opportunity. And if you use a combination of estrogen, progesterone, and an androgen, either a DHEA or a testosterone, you have almost a 60 to 70% reduction rate in having Alzheimer's or cognitive decline. That is massive, but you have to start early. Now, am I saying if you're 10 years out from menopause, that's not going to help you? No, it's just that the research showed that if you could start in this window, that's where you get the most benefit. So I'm going to go ahead and come on over to my other board. Oops. And it's not going to go away because it's all stuck on a cord. Hopefully I don't knock these over. Ooh, it's kind of crazy. Okay, I'm going to pull this one up here a little bit. And so, can you see that okay? Over just a little bit. So I'm going to go. Cool. I got too many boards going on, don't I? Okay. Hope you can see that. Yes, Connie. Yes, I'm so glad. Okay, so this is a timeline from birth to 100. We're going to live to be 100, right? And we're going to love it. And this is estrogen and progesterone. And this is puberty. And this is our 20s and 30s when we're fertile. And this is our 30s to 40s. You can see it start to decline. And then all of a sudden, as our ovaries are starting to give up the ghost, it goes crazy here. And then progesterone starts to decline, and then estrogen starts to decline. And now we have what we call ovarian failure. Our eggs are dried up, the basket's empty, and we're not making those hormones that were once needed to fertilize the eggs. And so what happened was the study in 2002 that freaked everybody out, the WHI study, was they were working with women out here was 65 to 70. So they had this amount of time where they did not get the benefit. So this is what they're calling the magic window. So within that 10 years, if you start bioidentical hormones, that's where you're going to have the most benefit because you haven't had that decline there by the time you get to here. So glad I started. How long do you take? BHRT? So you guys who are my regular tribe here every night, what do I always say? Until science figures out a way for us to regrow ovaries forever. Forever, as long as you want to be on the cruise ship and not in the nursing home, right? So that's that 10 years there. So the WHI study was in 2002. And before, about 60 to 70% of women were on HRT. Now at 2025 out here, as low as 1%. I mean, that is nuts. So I want to kind of give you an idea. In 2002, and I did a video a little while back that was, LOL, I love it, all about the WHI study. So I think I got that one posted. I might have to go back and pull it. I had a little panic when I thought TikTok was going away because I thought, oh no, did I download all those videos? So I'm going to do that because it's kind of become a priority for me now. But 2001, 2003, so the WHI study actually did have in its follow-up, and it was not the estrogen arm, it was the synthetic progestin arm that actually got this study. It hit its full capacity, it hit where it was like concerns. So they were starting to see some things that concerned them. So anyway, a whole lot to unpack there, and I won't do that right now. But actually, the follow-up studies on that actually did show that estrogen reduced the Alzheimer's risk if started within this window. Now, does that mean that it's no good, that you can't take hormones if it's not in that window? No, it just said that you get the most benefit in that window. So when women ask me, like, am I too old? No, you're not too old. Did you miss a little bit of your window for the protective benefits? Yeah, you did, but that's okay. We deal with it. We're here now. But do you want that to get worse, right? So no, we don't. So here's a bunch of studies. So this is 2004, 2005, 2006. So this one here, I just kind of randomly showed you that a sampling of the studies that came out and what they were saying. And in 2025, nobody's talking about all these studies. And literally there were like thousands. I mean, this is just a few. But this one said progesterone interacts with GABA to decrease anxiety and soothe the CNS system or the central nervous system. Hormone therapy versus lifestyle alone. They showed that hormone therapy was more beneficial for neurocognitive things. Testosterone increased brain processing and speed and executive functioning. Here as we're getting to, 2016, 18, study of sleep deprivation and brain fog in the SWAN, which is study of women's health access across the nation. And basically, it was sleep and progesterone, and getting more progesterone helped you sleep, which helped with cognitive decline. And so this is Cummings et al. Brain Science. Estrogen activates glucose metabolism pathways in the brain. This was Maki et al. Hormone therapy with bioidentical hormones, perimenopause, early menopause. Testosterone and brain-derived neurotropic factors. Gut-brain frontiers had endocrinology and microbiome and brain. So in 2014, transdermal estradiol and transdermal natural progesterone increased cognitive function over synthetic hormones. So we actually have research that says that bioidentical hormones are better, and it just makes common sense. Okay. So the WHI in 2002 actually did prove that if you were over the age of 65 with no hormones, you had a double risk of dementia. So they didn't say that. They didn't go with that. They just said hormones cause cancer, right? That's where everybody went with that. But they actually did go back and show that if you weren't on hormones up to age 65, which is where most women were at in the study, that was a bad thing. And most of the benefits before 65. And like I said, that doesn't mean it's dangerous. It just means that was where the most benefit was. And where that comes from about people saying that you can't be on hormones longer than 2 years comes from synthetic birth control, because oral synthetic high dose estrogen and progesterone synthetic go through the liver and increase your risk of clotting. So they don't ever want women on synthetic hormones more than 2 years. But then yet, what do? We just keep going. Keeps freezing for me. The video, I'm not sure what happened. Are you guys hearing me okay? Maybe it's freezing up. I don't know. I'll keep talking. You guys can let me know if anything's weird's going on. But anyway, yeah, so that doesn't mean you can't take bioidentical hormones. So we want to go this whole duration. So when people say, how long are you going to take it? Until we regrow ovaries. I'm still freezing up. Okay, I don't know what's happening. I wonder if it's a TikTok thing, because I think synthetic hormones for 35 years. Well, it is what it is. We just pray that you're okay, but get on some bioidenticals now. We do have time. Okay, and let's see. Estrogen supports glucose metabolism and transporters and enzymes and all the things. So I know I'm about out of time, and I wanted to get one more board in. What are you going to do about all of this? So I want to go through just a few easy things here. So BHRT, of course. So order a test kit. It's a little over $100. Free shipping back to the lab. You do it right at your house, and then the consult's included with our hormone coaches, and we get you on some bioidentical hormones. Hydration is very important. The body, the brain, about 80% water, so you've got to hydrate your electrolytes. Very important. A lot of people take blood pressure medications that lower their sodium, and low sodium can be very, very dangerous, especially for elderly people in the hospital. A low sodium can actually cause such neurocognitive decline, and then it can actually make the heart stop. So you want to keep that going. High protein, and I always say that if you focus on protein, you're not going to eat as much sugar and carbs. So super important. And protein you need for the brain. Exercise at least 15 to 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Cardio really helps get the blood flow to the brain, but strength training is so good to build testosterone, which also helps with your hormones. Which blood pressure meds cause low sodium? A lot of times it's the diuretics can do it, but the things and I'm not telling anybody to stop their meds. Talk to your doctor about that if that's a concern. But the ACE inhibitors like lisinopril, the losartans, that whole family. There's ACE1s and ACE2s, but the lisinopril and some of those can definitely do it. Okay, some supplements. I already mentioned the methylfolate. MCT oil is like the fatty fuel for the brain that it needs. And omega-3 is super, super important because you need, lisinopril is one. So I would talk to your doctor about that, and especially check your blood levels, and if your sodium's low, that could definitely be a concern. I had a patient the other day, and her primary care had her on lisinopril. Her sodium was like 129. I was like, oh, that's not good. So anyway, definitely can be a problem. Okay, omega 3s, because our brain is a lot of fat, and if here's the brain and here's your nervous system, down your whole nervous system has fatty substances called myelin sheaths. And so you need that cholesterol, you need those fatty substances for those conductions to get all the way down the spinal cord and then go through all the nerve connections that it has to make throughout the body. Vitamin D is very important. Vitamin D is actually a hormone, and vitamin D helps regulate the carrier proteins that actually help your hormones get into the cells. And my link in bio, we actually have our shop page there, and we have great vitamin D too if you want that. Probiotics, very important. I'm real sensitive to probiotics because some of them, like, because of the gut brain connection, the serotonin and dopamine stuff, I'm super sensitive. So I get my, again, I'm not here. I feel like I'm on the Home Shopping Network or something. I'm absolutely not. But anyway, in our little shop thing on my link in bio, we do have our fruits and greens, and it has probiotics and prebiotics in it. So I can do this and just have my little, it's a powder, and put it in my protein shakes in the morning and stuff, and I get bunch of vitamins and anti-inflammatories. Oh, and it has turmeric in it too. So you get all the things in there, which is really cool. And turmeric is good. TT's back. Yay. I know. TikTok or Tammy Tucker or both. I love it. Okay. Melatonin, our natural melatonin starts to decline when our estrogen goes down. So when you get on bioidentical hormones, that actually helps your melatonin production, which helps you sleep. So that's one mechanism of action with both. um, so vitamin C and antioxidants for sure actually decrease your risk of infections, and turmeric. And I take tons of vitamin C and tons of vitamin D. And I think that, and I'm always bragging that, I was going to move this here and just chat with y'all for a minute. And I'm always bragging. That seems really weird there. I don't know. Okay, let's move that back over here. Okay, now my head's in front of it. this is weird. I'm sorry. I think it's all the snot in my head is making me giddy or something. But so I always brag, like, the girls in the office are getting sick and I'm not. Hangman. It does look like Hangman. We could play that game. I remember that. Gosh, that was a long time ago. But yeah, the girls get sick a lot. And so I'm like, I don't get sick. I don't get sick. So I guess I'm just kind of paying for that because everybody gets sick, right? I mean, none of us are immune. I had a progesterone and I'm finally sleeping. Yay, Miss Vivian. I love it. I love it. Yes, progesterone is so important for sleep. And estrogen absolutely helps increase your natural melatonin levels. Stick man. It doesn't look like a stick man. I'm going to have to go play with it after the live here and like dress it up or something. What to take for high cholesterol? Actually, I look at cholesterol very different, and I think I do have just a couple minutes. I'll break that down for you. Is 4 milligrams of estrogen vaginal too much? Well, estrogen vaginally usually does not absorb systemically a lot because of the base that they put it in. Now, topical, we use a base that's easier absorbed into the bloodstream. The base in the vaginal is a lot thicker, and so it usually just stays in that area more. And in fact, even some mainstream commercial doctors say that, that the studies show that it doesn't increase the levels. I don't buy that, but that does sound like a bit much, especially if you're taking like other topical estrogen or something like that. Usually I wouldn't use more than about 1.5 or 2 milligrams, even for a vaginal estrogen. Makes me very nauseous. Yeah, I mean, too much estrogen absolutely can. I mean, too much of anything, right? Especially if you're sensitive to it. So I'll do a little thing here on cholesterol. Cholesterol is, and I have some other videos on cholesterol, but cholesterol is just one thing in something called a lipid panel. But the actual LDL molecule, the low density, which is what they call the bad one, is actually the prohormone that makes progesterone. and estrogen and testosterone and cortisol. So when people ask me what for cholesterol, I'm like, well, in women especially, the last thing that you want to do is be on a cholesterol blocker like a statin. There's no studies, and I would implore you guys to show me a study that actually shows that women have better cardiac outcomes with a statin or a cholesterol blocker. There are none. Trust me. I have looked, spent so many hours because I say this all the time and I'm like, somebody's going to bring that article to me and I'm going to feel stupid. So I keep looking for it, like the big fish in the lake that everybody says, the legendary, the legendary article is out there, right? Unless some big pharma like pays for it or something, and who knows, it could show up. But so I think of that very differently. And what we really need to be looking at is things like homocysteine levels, our insulin levels, CRP, inflammation, all those kinds of things that actually increase our risk of heart attacks and strokes. We know now that bioidentical organic estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone decrease the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Good methylation, regulating those clotting factors through our liver, keeping everything healthy and keeping it in a state when we were younger absolutely makes sense. But increasing your HDL with things like good fatty acids like MCT, coconut oil, fish oil, all those things absolutely can help increase your good cholesterol, which acts like Teflon in your arteries. And then if your triglycerides are high, getting those down with um, adequate fiber in your diet, which actually absorbs some of those sugary lipids. So lots of different things. So it gets really complicated. But if you go back and watch my one of my videos, it's like all things like liver and cholesterol. I probably need to do a whole cholesterol one just in that, because that could be like a whole top. Hemochromatosis from testosterone. Can I take testosterone at all anymore? Okay, so Sandy, hemochromatosis is actually a genetic condition of iron overload. So if you have too much iron, what happens is testosterone actually upregulates your red blood cells to carry oxygen to your muscles. Because, when you're working out and you want to get, more muscle tone, testosterone helps build muscle by increasing your red blood cells to take the oxygen to the muscle cells. So with hemochromatosis, that if you have iron overload, meaning that your body can't, oh, they're about to tell me, hang on just a second. They're telling me my time's up, and I'm clicking and saying, I know. Um, but yeah, so if you have too much iron, that could be a problem. So I would definitely, and guys that have hemochromatosis, I just have them go do phlebotomy, but I monitor their hemoglobin level. So I would definitely ask your doctor to check your red blood cells. And as long as they're not running too high, a moderate amount of a healthy balance of testosterone, it doesn't preclude you from taking testosterone, but it does mean that you need to monitor what your red blood cells are doing, because whether you took testosterone or not, you could still have iron overload issues. How do you know which hormones you need to take? I am all about testing. So when we talk about hormones, there are many, many different hormones. There's thyroid, there's insulin, there's peptide hormones, there's sex steroid hormones. So what I usually start with is estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, because those are the three main ones that your ovaries make, that your ovaries, when you start to go through perimenopause or after menopause and ovarian failure, those are the main ones. And if you have adequate levels of those, everything else falls into balance most of the time. I mean, occasionally we might still have a genetic condition where, like hemochromatosis, or you have something like that. Or you have like thyroid toxicosis, or you have some other thing like heavy metals, or some, Lyme's disease, low-grade Lyme's disease, or, like a infectious disease like hepatitis or something like that. So there are things that actually can affect the immune system that we're missing. But for the most part, if you have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, a lot of these things that are related to disease processes can absolutely be minimized. And a lot of these symptoms that we have of menopause, including brain fog, can all be fixed. So how do you know which ones? You test and you see. And I just think it's crazy when doctors say, oh, we don't need to check your hormones. It's like, why? I mean, if you didn't have a thyroid, would they like just throw you on some random amount of thyroid hormone and not test you and then say, well, that's the lowest dose, so that's the safest amount. So it's just crazy. So which hormones, I would say get the testing and find out which hormone's low, and then, get the balance from that, and then retest and see where you're at, so to make sure that you're getting the right amount, because everybody's different. Okay, I think my voice has just, I can't believe I made it a whole hour. This is awesome. And I'm just so glad to be back, and I'm glad everything's okay, and the TikTok is back, and it's about symptoms and not levels. You know, uh, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of um, misinterpretation of the data. It's a lot of doctors operating out of fear and being so conditioned and indoctrinated. I talked earlier about the Flexner report and medical school funding being dictated by throwing big pharma at stuff. And so every night when I come talk to you, I'm trying to break apart all of the things that have made doctors say things that aren't benefiting you and could actually hurt you, and even more so kill you. So you have to be empowered, and all that comes through knowledge, and that comes from me being here every night at 7 o'clock and throwing nerdy science at you, and you guys telling your friends, and you telling them to watch these videos, and going out there and watching other people. So I don't know why they say testing isn't necessary. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And then whatever you take, when you're taking your bioidentical hormones, it's like we just go by symptoms. That's great. But, if you don't know what your levels are, how do you know you're getting adequate? Because we're not always going for symptoms. We're going for healthy bones. How can you tell if your bones are healthy unless you break them, right? That's, if you want to go skateboarding and figure out if your bones are healthy, that's one way, I guess. Or how about you test? I mean, that makes so much more sense to me, right? Or how do you know if your heart's healthy? Or how do you know if, your urinary tract is, I mean, all the things. How do you know all the things on the inside? And how do you know that your levels are adequate to take care of those things when you can't see what's happening from the outside? So I think that that's a silly thing for them to say that testing isn't important. And anybody who tells you that you're too old for hormones or that hormones are dangerous, they just need to do a little bit more research and just, be curious. That's all I am, is I'm very curious, and I don't ever take anybody's word for anything. I do my own research, and I understand that you guys might not have the ability to dig through all this data and all these research articles and everything, but it takes all of us. It takes the tribe, and it takes the time and your interest. And I always say, as long as you guys keep showing up, I will too. So I don't expect you to know all this nerdy science. I just, whatever little pieces you can glean from this and share this information. And if it's nothing else, but I just want to feel better, then, that's the path. So if you want to order a test kit and see what your levels are, there's no commitment. It's just a little over $100. I think they're $129. If you had these tested, if you could even get a doctor to check estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone, probably be, $600 or $700. So it's a really inexpensive way. It's an investment in yourself to see at least if what's going on, if that could be it. I mean, it's always it. I'll just tell you straight up. But just to have something to make you understand that you're not crazy. And then this is what's going on, because it's really interesting when you see your lab report and you see like where you lie, especially when you're in ovarian failure after menopause. It's just shocking sometimes to people to think, oh my gosh, she was really right. I really don't have any estrogen. I really don't have any progesterone anymore. So, and then it's a little difficult in perimenopause because the levels fluctuate all over the place. But if we can get you in your 40s on some bioidentical hormones before, when we have that window of opportunity to get those levels balanced and right where they need to be, you can have so much protective benefit. Okay, so I'm preaching a little bit. And again, my voice is about to go, but I love you guys so much. And thank you for being here. I know you could be a lot of other places. And every night you guys show up, it just makes my heart so happy. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Love you, love you, love you. Bye.